Alright guys, we are back indeed. Apologies for the technical problems. I am not sure what happened, but my computer said, hey, how about a blue screen? And, sometimes the streaming PC just doesn't want to be your friend. So, apologies for the technical difficulties, but we are back and getting ready to hop in for our first race of the day. At least we crashed before things kicked off, not during the height of a race. So hopefully there's no further issues there. I'm not sure what happened. My computer just decided to say, hey, here's that blue screen of death and enjoy. So it looks like we are loading back in here, though, and we will be in right around the kickoff here of that first race of the day. We might maybe miss a lap here at the start, but all in all, should be into the action here in just a moment. Loading in right now, actually, so... And here we have it. We are going to hop right into it, guys. No delays here. We're just going to hop in for that first. And it is going to be Slalom as that first map of the day. Kicking it off. Lap number 1 here. As you can see, Scrapie already off to a decent start. Falls a little bit behind there, but still in the middle of the pack. He started off right around 9th position, it looked like, but a little hesitant around the last few corners there. We'll see if he can recover it. For Scrapie, though, today, he definitely needs a big performance in order to improve on the overall leaderboards. A lot of these guys in the top 4, top 5 overall are amassing a large number of points here. Scrapie, though, not the start you want to see around the first icy turn. Can't seem to connect on it, and that is going to be an unfortunate way to kick off the day. Right now, though, it is going to be a tough one for Scrapie here already on track number 1. That first icy turn just proving to be incredibly difficult for him to get around, and now he's about 8 seconds off even Gwen, who's in 15th, so unfortunately, it is going to be a tough situation to recover from. The benefit of the doubt here, though, it is just map number 1 on the overall day, so it's not really a situation where Scrapie's going to be incredibly disappointed, but for him, I know he needs a large points day overall, and any extra points he can get in the opening maps are only going to potentially help boost him up the overall leaderboards if he does have a good final 2 races here on the day. So I'm sure from his perspective, even though this isn't the worst race to have a bad performance in, he'd still like to get those extra points so that maybe he can hold on to them at the end of the day here. So entering lap 3 out of 6 here on Slalom. Scrapie just trying to recover and do what he can at this point. Not really a whole lot that can be done except just kind of mentally preparing for what's to come down the line on these remaining maps here for the day. As you can see on the overall leaderboard, though, it is going to be Pack currently out in front here on Slalom, and right now overall he is in 2nd place on points as well. So Pack, I would say, consistently seems to be one of the better performing drivers alongside Carl Jr. throughout the season so far here in the Winter 2021 edition, but definitely a lot of time left for many of these drivers, Scrapie included, to really make their mark and find their way back into it. As you can see, though, even though he was about 8 seconds behind Gwen, he has recovered some time here. Scrapie now moving into about 6 seconds behind, so still trying to make those improvements. Just as I say that, though, he's going to be a bit disappointed with how that one ended up coming out of that jump. He's going to take a hit midair and unfortunately be right back around that 8 or 9 seconds behind Gwen here. Going to be an unfortunate start here on the day, but like I said, there's tons of time to recover here. Arl going to go down and out, so maybe a potential pass here for Scrapie as Arl goes down about 10 seconds. Still about 2 seconds in front of Scrapie here, though. Lap 4 out of 6 on Slalom so far. Not looking great here from the back of the pack, but maybe Scrapie can find his way into at least 15th here over Arl if he can have a good run on the last few laps. Right now, though, it's proven to be quite the difficult track here for Scrapie, and honestly, consistently throughout the season so far, it hasn't been a strong performer here for Scrapie. We saw last week with the broken controller some issues on this map, but it's one of those maps where it's very unforgiving, especially in that ice section there. But hopefully the recovery is in store. The big thing for Scrapie this week is having a good final 2 races of the day. We're only on map 1, so there's definitely ample time for Scrapie to recover here, but it's going to have to be a big day overall for him to really make the impact he needs on the overall leaderboards. He's definitely not in a safe position in terms of qualifying for that top 8 at the end of the season here, so he needs definitely 1 good week, if not 2 good weeks, to really seal the deal on that spot. Right now, though, it is just Pack out in front still. Papu and Rialu right behind him. Very close in that fight for the top 3. Carl Jr. and Massa rounding out the top 5 here. Scrapie trying to make that recovery and maybe catch up to Arl and Affy here in the bottom 3. Final lap here on map number 1, though. We'll see if there's any sort of recovery in store for Scrapie. Still about 3 seconds off of Arl. Unless Arl makes a mistake here, I don't see any sort of pass potential unless Scrapie just has an incredible run here in the final lap. Rounding out the last few turns here, it is going to be Scrapie still trying to make that potential pass available to him on Arl, but catching up at this point is going to be increasingly difficult unless somebody has an error in the final few turns here going into the ice. Scrapie about 4 seconds behind. It doesn't look like anyone's having any major mistakes either going into the final run here on the big ice turn. It's going to be Scrapie rounding out the pack here in the back this time around, 16th to kick off the day, but, you know, like I said last week, it's not about how you start here, it's definitely about how you finish in the TMGL. So, 1 point on the board to kick off the day, but definitely going to be an interesting one for Scrapie to try and recover now. Needs some big points later on in the day to really make an impact on his overall positioning. Currently in 10th on the overall leaderboards as well. 16th to kick off the day, but there's a lot of time here left for him to bounce back. If you guys are wondering, we are going to be doing the chat-controlled race again here. This time it's going to be after race number 2 today, so definitely stay tuned for that. It's going to be a fun one to play once again. The chat will control the vehicle for that little mini race between races 2 and 3 today, and hopefully this time we won't get stuck. We'll see, though. I'm interested to see if we can actually make it through the course this time around. As you guys can see, though, we're just getting prepared for our second map of the day. Looks like we might have had a little bit of a server crash there, so we're going to go ahead and load back in as we get ready for track number 2 of the day in this best of 6 step. While you guys are hanging out in the chat, though, a quick shout out to our partners here, Logitech G and XP Sports, as well as Scrapie's new partner for the month, Surfshark. You can check out, he's got a nice discount code there in the panels down below you can look at and show some nice support for Scrapie. Pick up a nice VPN there as well. But guys, we're going to be loading back in here for track number 2. I'm not sure what happened, but it looks like there was some game crashes going on after that first race was completed. So we're going to go ahead and load back in here and hopefully be right into the action for our second race of the day in just a few short moments. But while you guys are tuning in, it's great to have you around once again for this 4th week of the TMGL. Things are definitely starting to heat up. Hopefully Scrapie, though, can have a good day. I'm confident that it's just a matter of time here before he has a big race win for himself. And I think today there may be some tracks later on where he can make that happen. I know the initial tracks for the day, I wouldn't say play too much in his favor, but as we narrow closer to the end of the day, I definitely could see this being one of the strongest days out of Scrapie so far. All right, guys, we are going to hop right back into it. Currently just loading back into the servers to try and get into this one. All right, guys, here we go, right into it. It is going to be our second race of the day. This time it is going to be on Switcheroo as we continue forward. Scrapie this time around. We're going to see what he can do. Starting this one off near the back of the pack, a couple of drivers having some early issues here, but Switcheroo, definitely a track I can see Scrapie performing a bit better on here. Starting off lap number 1 still. Right in the fight here for Scrapie, kind of in the middle of the pack, on the back side of it. Working his way around the corner. He's going to have a little bit of a bump there coming out of that last turn. Does actually push him back into that 16th position to start it off, but still a track where I know Scrapie has that potential to recover quickly on, so we'll see if he can do so here. Going into the last few turns, already catching back up towards the middle of the pack here. Still needs to pick up the pace if he wants to find his way into a competitive position here on this second track of the day. Around the last few turns here, still gaining ground, starting to push right back into the fight here. We'll see if he can find a way to maintain and improve his time. But this is definitely a very fast-paced track, and for Scrapie, it's already proving to be a little bit of a challenge here as we go into the turns once again. Scrapie, though, already in striking distance of catching back up to Link here. Has to have a very strong performance, though, for the remainder of this map. It's going to be a tough recovery. Scrapie, though, he bumps the wall here. Not the time you want to see that happen, but at least has the boost here to work with to maybe catch back up and recover that mistake. Unfortunately, though, Scrapie is starting to fall further and further behind here in lap number 3. Definitely a bit of struggle continuing here so far on the second track of the day. We'll see if he can catch up here. About a second behind a Link, though, and about 3 seconds off a top 8 position. Definitely still time to recover, but this is a track that moves very, very quickly, and there's not a whole lot of time to really catch up if you're this far behind. I would say first place is almost unthinkable at this point. Maybe a top 8, though, if Scrapie's able to do some very, very strong lap recovery here. Currently on 4 out of 6, though, overall. Scrapie still trying to fight for that 15th. Unfortunately, around the last corner, it looked like he clipped the corner of the wall just a little bit there, and that is going to slow him down again here as he goes into the ice. Now about 2 seconds behind Link. Unfortunately for Scrapie, it's looking like another rough one here as we move forward. As we round out lap number 4 here still, Scrapie trying to make his mark and catch back up to Link here, but unfortunately things are just not going the best on Switcheroo so far. Looking like another potential race for Scrapie to fall down and out here. Looks like there was an error from Link there, so there is a potential to now move up a little bit and recover at least a couple of points out of this one. As we can see, though, Scrapie still only in that 15th position and now about 4 seconds behind on Kappa there in 14th. So overall, Definitely a difficult position for him to be in. We'll see if there's any recovery potential left, but this may just be the position he's able to hold on to here. If you guys are just tuning in, we're currently in race number 2 of the day on Switcheroo here. Scrapie, he had a bit of a rough start here, so unfortunately spending most of his time in recovery mode, trying to pick up the pace here and at least carve out a few points for himself in this one. But right now, on the final lap as we go into it, only 15th place to his name here, so it's going to have to be a big performance in the later half of the day in order to really make the impact Scrapie is looking for here today on points. If he could win one of those final 2 races, though, Scrapie definitely would find himself in a decent overall position, and he surely needs one at this point. These first races of the day not going well for him in the last couple of weeks here. The final lap here, going down to the wire for that fight in the top 3 positions. It looks like Carl Jr. may be the one to take it overall, though. Scrapie just trying to close this one out smooth and keep in front of Link, who's actually spun out yet again here. So Scrapie definitely going to be able to take down Link in that battle in the bottom 2 here, but still 15th, not the biggest momentum boost for Scrapie just yet. It'll be 2 points on the board, moving him to 3 overall, but I still believe he'll be right around that 15th or 16th position overall. So we'll see what he can do going into the final 4 maps of the day. Definitely not the start that he was hoping for. Going to have to claw back from behind, but we'll see what he can do in the remaining 4 maps of the day. Still ample time to make it happen, and of course, if he can move into the top 8 for those final 2 races, that means one of these guys who's accumulated a lot of points on the day already is going to fall below him. So there's definitely a good chance to make an impact today still. If you guys are joining us as well, I believe now between races 2 and 3, we are going to be going into the chat-controlled race here. I hope you guys are ready for it. I think it's going to be a fun one again. This time around, though, I believe only chat mods can reset the car, so we'll see if that plays into a factor this time as we go for it here. But I believe that's what we're going to be doing next. All right, guys, here we have it. It is going to be clash time. The controls are right there on your screen, so let's prepare and let's try and get this one done together this time, chat. Last time we ran straight into the wall and we could not get away from that wall. This time around, though, we've got the controls. We're ready to go. We're going to win this one. I got faith in you guys. I think we can actually win the clash time this time around. Last time, I think we got 3rd or 4th, just getting stuck on that wall at the end. But this time around, we got this, chat. Looking at the track, it doesn't look as crazy difficult this time around as well. It's mostly accelerating and then just being a little bit cautious around the turns. But let's go, chat. Let's have at it here. Just watch out for this first turn coming up. We got to get ready for this first turn, but so far, we're doing a good job. Got to start turning left a little, guys. We need those left arrows here to come up. We might hit the wall here. Now just accelerate. We can just hold the accelerate here, I think, for a little bit. We're in a pretty good spot to just try and gun it for a minute. Oh, a little too far to the left. I'm going to go back to the right. Now I just need to accelerate. Just keep accelerating for a little bit, and I think we can catch up here. We've got the turn coming up, though. I'm going to start turning right a little bit. Most of you keep doing accelerate, though. We don't everyone want to go to the right. Some people should just do accelerate the whole time. We're in a tough spot here, but we're still recovering. All right, now we just need to go straight here. We're going too far to the right. Oh, keep going. All right, not bad, not bad. A little bit to the right. Keep accelerating into the right a little bit. We're almost out of this one. We're almost out of it. All right. All right, we're out of it. Now just accelerate. No more to the right. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no. All right. All right, we're probably gonna need a mod to reset us here. Unfortunately, I think we're stuck once again, guys. It's unfortunate, but I think we've gotten stuck once again. Well, at least we're kind of out of it. Maybe we need to just get some turns in here. There we go. There we go. We got the mod reset in here. Now we just got to go forward and get the sharp right turn down here. Get the right turn. Oh, we're close. We're close. We're close. And we're stuck again. We are stuck again. We're going to have to reset it again, boys. Unfortunately so. We're going to have to try and fight our way out of this one. Alright. We're going to need a mod to hit the reset. Only mods can hit the reset this week, so... There we go. Let's see if we can get it this time around. We got to hit this quick right turn here, guys, and then we just got to smooth sailing, make it forward. Now just accelerate. Nobody right turn. Nobody right turn. Just straight forward. Just straight forward here. There it is. Just nice and easy, boys. Nice and easy. Keep it up. Oh. I don't know what's going on here. I think we're stuck again. I'm not sure how we got stuck out of this one. We made it through the ice, no problem, but I think we might be stuck here again. Well, boys, I think we may be stuck here. A couple backups, maybe we can get it. Quick left turn here, maybe we can get out of it. This is it's recoverable from where we're at now. We're going too much in reverse though. Too much in reverse. Now we need to turn and go forward. We need to left turn forward. I think we're stuck again. Do we just want to reset here? We might just have to reset here, boys. I think we're stuck again. All right, mods, go ahead and hit the reset here. We're going to try this again. All right. We just got to hit this sharp right turn here. And then be careful on the ice. Just got to accelerate through the ice here. Nothing too crazy. Oh. We had a mod hit the reset too many times. All right, I think we're good on the resets now. We just got to work our way through here and see if we can get this one done. Oh, there's too many right turns. Yvonne's chat wins clash time already. Wow. We got smoked this time, boys. You know, just got to brush them off. We'll get them next time. We'll get them next time. That was a tough one, though. The walls are not our friend. The ice section especially not our friend there, but we'll get them next week, guys. We'll get them next week. It's okay. Broken paddles, am I right? That's what it was. It was the broken paddles, guys. What were we going to do? All right, guys. We are going to be loading in here, though, for our next race of the day. It's going to be race number 3 coming up, and then we'll get things started on our third track of the day. If you guys are tuning in, appreciate everybody hanging out with us, though, and joining us for step number 4 of the TMGL Winter 2021 edition. And then we'll be back into it here. Before we hop right into it, though, for our third track of the day, a quick shout-out to our sponsors, Logitech G, XP Sports, and Surfshark here. Definitely be sure to check them out in the panels down below and show some nice support for Scrapie as he continues forward to try and make this day a little bit stronger than how it started. Of course, as we go into our third race of the day, it is going to be on To the Peak to continue us forward. So we'll see exactly what's in store here on this next track, but right now it is going to be a tough one here for Scrapie to try and recover, but it's all about those last couple of races here coming up later in the day to really determine the success that Scrapie can have overall in potential points for himself. And this is where things start to heat up, though. Points are on the line every single track here, and Scrapie is definitely not in a position where he can afford to have another poor performance overall on the day. To the Peak, though, a map where we've seen Scrapie actually perform pretty well on in the past. I think this is going to be one of his stronger maps overall on the season. It is still going to be a tough one, though, if Scrapie has any sort of early issues as we've seen from him in some of the past performances of the day already, it's going to be a tough road to recover here and keep that confidence high going into the final 2 races of the day. Right now, though, we are just in warm-up time as we prepare for this next one. Scrapie, though, only with 3 points overall. You can see on the left-hand side of your screen there the current overall points for the day. Pack and Carl Jr., the overall top 2, leading on the day as well and proving themselves to be currently the top contenders for those top 8 spots right now, and rightfully so. They've both had remarkable performances throughout the 2021 season so far, and I'd expect them at this point to be definitely in the top 8, if not contenders for a top 4 at the end of the season as well. Scrapie, though, just trying to get comfortable here before we get this one kicked off as we go back into it. Scrapie needed that mental reset, I think, after those first 2 maps regardless. Just not the start to the day that he was hoping for here, and now it's really all about what he can do to try and recover some points overall and really find a way into a much more impactful finish on the day. It's really all about those final 2 races for a lot of these drivers, and for someone in Scrapie's position, he really has to make a mark in those final 2 races of the day. But right now it's just as important because he needs to try and get some points that he can hold on to in those final 2 races that really make an impact if he is able to do well in the final 2 here. So for Scrapie, he really needs to get that points buffer up, and this is the perfect map to get it started on. Going around the first turn here, Scrapie looking pretty smooth and comfortable here, sitting in about 8th place. The first few turns definitely going his way here. Into the ice, you're going to see a couple drivers have a bit of struggle. Scrapie here a little shaky, but not enough to go down and out here. Still maintaining a spot towards the back middle of the pack here. Scrapie, though, looking for at least a top 8 out of this one, if not more. We'll see what he can find. Going into the jump there, you can see a little bit of leg. Scrapie, though, unfortunately going to have a little bit of a rough time going up the boost hill here. Loses just a hair of time. Fortunately, though, if you're going to have a hiccup, it's not too bad to have it happen in a section where boost is right around you all the time, so he doesn't lose quite as much speed as a potential error somewhere else on the map might have caused him. Going into lap 2 here, Scrapie still sitting in the back middle of the pack, trying to get that recovery in store on this second time around. Still fighting neck and neck. Takes it a little bit sharper here on the ice turn. Going down into it, it actually works in his favor. Gets a double pass out of it. Now Scrapie sitting right around 10th. Looking for that top 8 potential now as we narrow closer to our 3rd lap overall. Scrapie, though, still not in a safe position. Gets passed by Affy there as well. Now going into the boost section this time around. Unfortunately, having some struggles again in this section. Trying to just find his way to recover it quickly, though, because this section is not an easy one for a lot of the drivers in the pack here. Scrapie, though, he does manage to go down 4 spots out of that one, so definitely not an ideal spot to be in now, and Scrapie is going to be in full recovery mode for the remainder of this race. Currently about 5 seconds outside of the top 8 here. Scrapie needing a huge performance to somehow find his way back into this one. Scrapie around the ice this time around, looking smooth again. Still trying to keep that time within reach. Doing a decent job of finding his way back into it. Pass potential here now coming up onto Link in the next turn. Unfortunately, not quite close enough just yet to make it happen. Still looking for more here. Going into the uphill boost. This time around, we'll see if Scrapie can land it. Unfortunately, though, Scrapie just continuing to have some struggles in this section of the map. Pretty much every time he's gone through it, I think except for the very first time, it's been riddled with issues and mistakes, unfortunately, putting him in a very difficult position here in the overall standings for race number 3. Unfortunately, taking it a little bit too fast around that last turn and having some trouble maintaining vehicle control there. It's going to put Scrapie right around the back of the pack here at this point, only ahead of Pack and Yvonne, who've had even more trouble on this map so far. Right now, Scrapie, though, just trying to do what he needs to hold on to this position and maybe find 1 or 2 more spots out of it, but right now it's not looking great. But at the same time, when you already have only 3 points to work with, it's not like he's going to be taking a hefty loss here on a half of his points being removed situation, but Scrapie definitely in the future, with this map being one of the future maps we'll see at the end of the day, is one I would say he definitely needs to take some time to work through that section on. It's proven to be quite the challenge for him on that uphill boost section consistently here so far in this race. Going back into the final 2 laps here, though, Scrapie just kind of doing what he can at this point. There's not a whole lot of room for recovery. He's 10 seconds off a top 8, so realistically at this point it's just about holding on to as many points as he can grab, and right now it's looking like 14th may be the only chance he has at that. Couple laps left to go here, though. Scrapie, it's going to be all about the end of the day for him here today. These final 3 races are going to have to be a big boost for him. Otherwise, it is going to be a very difficult position for Scrapie to be in going into the next 2 steps. Here we go, though, into the uphill boost section here. The section that has proven to be a struggle throughout the race here for Scrapie continues to be a tough one here, and this is where Scrapie is just proving to have a very difficult time here and could actually end up following all the way back into 16th here, and it may just happen. Scrapie finally gets his way out of this one, but unfortunately with it, falls to about 15th position overall, just in front of Pack. Rounding out the final lap here, potential for maybe 14th the best out of this one, but it's not looking too great here. Probably a 15th finish here for Scrapie in this 3rd race, and that's going to put him in the bottom 3 for every race so far today, unfortunately so. Just not having the best of days again here. There we have it, though. It is going to be rounding out the finish here of this race. It looks like it will be Scrapie finding his way right into 15th position here. We'll see if he can close this one out with a nice little hold on to it going into the boost section and maybe find a nice pass onto someone in this final uphill battle, but it looks like the rest of the group here has completed it, and there you have it. Scrapie will be 15th overall, just in front of Pack, but not really a position to be too content with. Only loses 1 point, but now this is where the pressure is definitely going to be on Scrapie to start making his impact known. These final 3 races of the day going to be the big potential here for Scrapie to make something big happen for himself. Pack and Carl Jr., though, both losing points in race number 3 there, though, so definitely an interesting duo to see down in the bottom 8, but, you know, when you look at the overall points of both Carl and Pack, they're really in a situation where they can kind of afford to have a bad week if they wanted to, and they'd still be comfortably in a playoff position at this point. They've got well over 100 points in each of their hands, and really at this point, that's about all you need to be safe, is right around that 120 point mark gets you pretty safely into a top 8 position at the end of the season. So both Pack and Carl, they'd have to make some major mistakes to not find themselves in the top 8 when this one's all said and done. Right now, though, leading the day, it is going to be Massa and Tween out in the top 2. Rialu not too far behind as well, since Pack and Carl Jr. did take a big hit in losing half of their points on race number 3. Scrapie, though, going into race number 4 of the day on frozen fridges here, has to have a good performance this time around. This is where the points will start to add up here for him, and he needs these final 3 tracks of the day to really go his way. Otherwise, it is going to be a tough final 2 weeks to battle back from behind and to try and make it into the top 8 for Scrapie here. If you guys are hanging out in the chat, though, appreciate everybody tuning in and showing your support here for Scrapie. Be sure to follow the channel here if you haven't yet. If we're not live for TMGL, you can catch Scrapie live here daily, grinding the matchmaking and just having some fun with you guys in the chat here. He's definitely a great personality to have around and a part of the team on Lazarus, and we're excited to see what he can do here in the final 3 races of the day. Right now, though, looking pretty comfortable on frozen fridges here in the warm-up, but obviously, as we've seen in the live races today, just those early lap struggles here being a persistent issue for Scrapie in the last couple of weeks. Here we go, though, right into it. Frozen fridges, map number 4 of the day, half points at risk. And Scrapie, with only 4 on the day so far, looking to make his first big performance here in week number 4. We'll see if he can find a way to make it happen. Let's hop right into it. Scrapie starting it off here, fighting amongst the top 8. Around the first few turns, still anybody's first spot for the taking. Right now, it's actually going to be Mutta who looks to be pulling ahead early on here. But around these first couple of turns, it's still anybody's for the taking. Scrapie currently right around that 8th position. Not a bad spot to be at the start here, but has to maintain and make sure there's no errors that cost him greatly this time around. Going into the big uphill turns here, it's going to be Scrapie fighting amongst the top 4 here, keeping a comfortable time so far. The second turn here proving to be a bit more of a challenge here, loses just a bit of time, going down to about 4th position. Coming out of it, though, Scrapie still going to lose a little ground, but nothing that puts him in a tough spot just yet. Right now, though, the middle of the pack is heating up. Everybody neck and neck here between about 3rd and 12th position. Everything up for grabs here. Right now, though, Scrapie does fall a tad behind in the last few sections of the track here, but still, he's looking for that wave right back into it. Currently sitting right around that 9th position. Scrapie around the last couple of turns, recovering nicely on time. He was 12th going into the second lap, and now going into the uphill turns, he's looking for a greater recovery here in this lap. And this seems to be the spot where consistency matters the most here. Scrapie, he was 3rd place last time these drivers went into this section of track, and he fell all the way to 12th coming out of it, and this is where he needs to try and find some recovery. And you can see there, this time coming out of it, maintains a spot in the top 8, and that's going to be the impact that Scrapie was hoping for in lap number 3 here. Right now, Scrapie looking to maintain or better for the remainder of the race. A top 8 finish is what he's gunning for in all 3 of the final races here today. And so far, he's in a position to do that, but it's definitely not a safe spot just yet. Only 2 spots between him and a half points lost situation here. Going around that last turn, though, we are going to see a driver go down and out. Scrapie's still right around 8th position overall. Going into the turns here, Scrapie moves into about 4th. And now it's all about holding on. Scrapie around the first, looking a little shaky there, falls about 2 positions on it. Still trying to recover his way back into a decent position to come out of this section of track, and This is where he has to be pristine around the edges here, and just like that, you can see it. He cleans it up, moves from 9th right back into the top 8 here around 6th position. Just over halfway completed on this race as well, and Scrapie, he is looking for the way to cut corners here as well. You can see going for a little inside maneuver there, tries to pick up the pace, but unfortunately, I think that one actually cost him a tad bit of time overall. So Scrapie, he's looking for the way to potentially shave some time off here and move quickly into a higher position. And you know, with only 4 points on the day, it may just be worth the risk here if he can find his way into a strong placement to close out this race. Currently going into the turns once again, Scrapie in 5th position as they lead into it. Looking to see what he can do to potentially hold on here. Scrapie still fighting for that 5th spot going into the 2nd turn. Falls to about 6th with a little bit of shakiness coming down out of it. Still not a bad spot to be in overall. Coming down on the final turn, Scrapie finds himself on the back end of the top 5 here. Looking for more around the next turn. Still, the top 8 is very close-knit here. You can see there's about 7 drivers in the middle of the pack, all right on top of one another here, trying to fight for those top 8 positions. And this is where things are going to get intense in these final 2 laps. One small mistake is what could determine the difference between a top 8 and a bottom 8 here for all of these drivers in that 5 to 12 positioning. Scrapie, though, currently holding on to 6th place, looking for even more out of it. Takes it a bit too wide on that last turn, but he's looking to try and gain some speed going into the turn section here. Scrapie currently 7th as they go into the drop down. Looking for more on this next turn. Scrapie very smooth around that last one, looking for even more recovery going into the final turn here. Scrapie looking very fast coming out of this one. A little bit of recovery gained as well. Now moving himself comfortably into the top 8. Right now the fight is still on, though. This last lap matters so much for Scrapie, looking for his first strong performance of the day, and this is his chance to close it out with a good one. Right now, though, the final lap will be the determiner of where he ends up in this overall performance on our 4th map of the day. Right now, though, he's currently in 6th position here, looking for the potential as they go into the drop down to maybe even make it a top 4 finish on the day. Scrapie, though, cutting it inside this time around, makes a nice impact going into this section for himself, moving into a dead even for this 5th position. Going into the turns here, though, Scrapie just needs to be careful to make sure at the very least he maintains his positioning here. Right now, though, Scrapie trying to do his best to have a strong finish here in this 4th race of the day, and coming out of the turns, he's still going to be holding on to a nice position. Going into the finish line there, it is going to be Scrapie dead even with Mutta, but actually goes down to 6th on the final turn there. But still not a bad spot when it's all said and done for Scrapie to be in race number 4. He's going to get some much needed points on the table, and more importantly, look how many drivers with over 20 points have fallen down and out here. Papu losing half of his points, Tween, Spam, a lot of drivers with some decent point totals going down here. So Scrapie definitely moving up on this one from last place now into 12th. And this is where it's all on the line here, guys. These final 2 races of the day. Scrapie, he's in a position where he can jump up the leaderboards here with 2 strong races to close out the day, but 2 bad races at the end of the day, and it could completely erase any potential success here in recovering those points overall for the day. So right now, more than ever, these last 2 races are going to be of the utmost importance for Scrapie here and his potential to recover his overall standings on the day. If you guys are hanging out, though, appreciate everybody tuning in. A quick shout out to our partners here, Logitech G and XP Sports, as well as Surfshark. Be sure to check them out in the panels down below. But right now, it is go time for Scrapie here, guys. We are going into the final 2 maps, and that means a complete points loss for any driver in the bottom 8. And this is where these drivers have to be ready to perform at their peak here. There's no room for some of the mistakes that we saw from Scrapie in those initial 2 maps of the day. He's really having to bring his A game here in the final 2 tracks of the day. But going into these, I would say they are tracks where I think Scrapie can excel on. And I think for him, it's really going to be a matter of doing what he can to have an overall strong impact on the day, because it's not been an easy season for Scrapie, to say the least, so far, fighting consistently week after week to try and maintain the best position that he can here. But looking at the last 2 weeks, sitting in 10th overall, not really the strongest spot to be in if he wants to make it in to the top 8 at the end of the season. Right now, though, just currently in some warm-up time as we prepare for our 5th map of the day, and I think Scrapie definitely has his work cut out for him here. He's had a rough go of it on the overall day, but I think he can definitely bring what he needs to the table to have a solid recovery in store today. As you can see here, though, guys, we've got about 2.5 minutes until we kick off this next race of the day. Scrapie just trying to stay warm and comfortable here as we go into the danger zone for the final 2 tracks of the day. Everybody's points at complete risk here, but look at the overall standings here. There's definitely that potential for a big leap up from Scrapie. There is a 4-way tie for 8th place with 15 points, which is only 3 ahead of Scrapie here, who is tied with Affy at 12 points. So overall, not a bad spot to be if you're Scrapie here. The potential to skyrocket with one big performance and a top 8 to close out the day realistically could put him in the top 3 when the day is over. And right now, the overall impact of that could be pretty huge, considering the only 2 drivers to really be feeling comfortable in their overall points would be Pack and Carl Jr. here. Everybody else, I would say, definitely has the risk of losing their spot in the playoffs if they don't have a strong performance to close out the remaining weeks of the TMGL and the regular season here. So Scrapie definitely in a position where he could easily work his way into that top 8 with a couple strong performances here to close out the regular season. You can see Scrapie looking pretty comfortable here as well as we prepare to go into map number 5. But he's going to need it here. There's no room for errors here for Scrapie today. He has to have a big performance. It's been a situation where I think we've all known it's going to happen at some point for Scrapie. It's just a matter of when at this point. About 40 seconds, though, before we hop into it for map number 5. As you can see, Massa leading the day with 50 points. Pack already, after losing half of his points in race number 3, back into 2nd place. And this really shows you the strength of a driver like Pack. I mean, he had a rough go of it in week, I think it was week 2 or week 1, where he lost the majority of his points in the final race. And even with that, he still put himself in a strong position week after week here. So definitely a shout out to Pack for just being, I would say, overall the most consistent driver that I've seen so far in this season. Here we go, though. This is where the pressure is on. Do not be in the bottom 8. That is not where you want to be here. You will lose all of your points if you fall there, but this is going to be a tough track to close out a top 8 on. We're going into whoops here to see what these drivers are made of. A true test of grit here on this map with Scrapie. We'll see if he's up for the challenge here, looking for the big impact he needs to have a successful day. But it's going to be a tough track to do it on here. A very fast-paced map, but one where drivers can really show their prowess here and what they're capable of doing under the high pressure of the TMGL. As you can see, Scrapie taking it a little too quick around the ice, has to slow it down, but recovers nicely so he doesn't have to completely spin out there and reset himself. So falls from about 2nd to 6th, but still fighting in the top 8 here as we continue forward on lap number 1. A lot of time left, though, on this map. Scrapie knows that maintaining a top 8 position is the most important thing he can do here, and anything beyond that is just going to be considered a big win. Right now, though, a little shaky around that last turn, puts himself outside of the top 8 now, has to try and recover here going into lap number 2, but this is a track where there's definitely going to be lots of room for recovery because this is a map that's going to give all of the drivers a lot of difficulty here because there's so many nuances here that you're not going to see in a lot of the other maps that you really have to be careful for on a track like Whoops. Scrapie right now, 2 seconds off the top 8. It's a position where he can recover this time, but he has to be very cautious in doing so because this is a track, as you can see, drivers spinning left and right here. It's going to give everybody a lot of trouble, and this is what makes for a very interesting final 2 map of the day selection. A map like this can really shake things up on the overall leaderboards, and for Scrapie, that's pretty much exactly what he needs here. So if he can find a way into a top 8, this is going to be a big potential day for Scrapie here. Unfortunately, Scrapie consistently having some issues here on this last section of track, and unfortunately going to put himself still outside of the top 8 here, about 4 seconds off as well. Not an ideal spot to be this early on. As we can see here, though, currently 12th place for Scrapie. He needs to try and smoothen out that final section of track here and what he's able to do on this map, because it's proven to take a lot of time off of him overall, but there is still a chance he can recover it here with a strong performance in these final laps. You can see right now Scrapie and Mutta are trying to fight it out here for that 11th position, but both of them know that they need to do even more to move into the top 8 here. Scrapie, though, needs to clean up this final section. We'll see if he's figured out exactly what he needs to do to make that happen. This time around, that is exactly what we wanted to see every lap out of Scrapie, a very smooth exit into the final section of track. Very nicely done. Now Scrapie trying to recover even more in this next lap, getting a decent time, but right now it's not good enough just yet. 12th place is not going to be enough to be safe at all here for Scrapie. He needs to find his way into 4 seconds of recovery, and on a map this fast, that could be very difficult to do. The ice section, though, has been fairly successful for Scrapie so far. Takes it a little bit wide this time around, but still able to find his way out of it smoothly. About halfway through it here on Whoops, and right now Scrapie's still about 4 seconds off where he needs to be, and this could prove to be a very difficult one if Scrapie isn't able to find the recovery he needs here. As we can see, though, Scrapie starting to catch up to those potential top 8 spots here. This time around, though, again, having a struggle in the final section of track here, consistently putting himself at risk on this map. Unfortunately here, it's not looking the best for Scrapie in this first of the final 2 maps on step number 4. He's going to have to do something big here in the final 2 laps to really find his way back into it. Looking for a recovery of about 4 positions here for Scrapie to have a chance at a decent placement here, but 8 seconds off is going to be hard to recover for Scrapie to really have a chance at this one. Right now, though, Scrapie looking to do everything he can to make this section go clean the last couple of times through it that he's going to have here as an opportunity. Unfortunately here, still having a few issues around the finish line. Manages it a little bit better, though, than the previous lap, but that's not going to be quite enough for the recovery he needs here. 5 seconds off of the top 8, and he's still desperately looking for that potential here in the final lap. He needs to have a little bit of luck and a lot of skill on his side here to make this dream a reality of a top 8 in the final lap, but right now it's not looking too likely. Currently Scrapie sitting in 12th position overall, 5 seconds outside of passing Rialu here. There is going to be a singular mistake coming out there around the last turn for Tween, but still, with 5 seconds in between Scrapie and the top 8, it's going to be a very tough play to fight this one back. And going into it, I think it's already a bit too late for Scrapie. You can see there's already 8 drivers now that have crossed the finish line, and that will be it for Scrapie. Trying to do what he can here to close this one out, but it's only going to be an 11th place finish here for Scrapie at the end of this 5th race. Unfortunately so, Scrapie will be losing all of his points. He does get a little bit of a gain back out of it, but right now for Scrapie, it's not going to be too big of a hit compared to the likes of Rialu, who loses all 37 points. However, it is going to be a loss of 12. So Scrapie, currently sitting in 11th position going to the final race. He needs a big top 3 minimum performance here to really have the day he was hoping for. And even then, it's still going to be a little disappointing losing all of those points on race number 5 here. But Scrapie, at the very least, he needs a top 8 in this final race or better to really have the impact he needs to close out this day. Currently not sitting in the worst of positions to be in, but right now he really needs to have something big go his way in this final race of the day. We'll see if he can make it happen, though. It's going to be a tough one for Scrapie, but he's definitely a resilient driver, so we'll see if he has what it takes to really push through and get the job done. If you guys are tuning in, though, appreciate everybody hanging out in the chat and showing your support for Scrapie. I know it's been a rough couple of weeks here for Scrapie, but there's still time to recover here and a chance to make the top 8 and really close out the season strong for him. And I know that's what he's gunning for here in the final weeks of the regular season, looking to close things out as strong as possible and then come out swinging in the playoffs. Final map of the day. We'll be reversing here to see what Scrapie can do in order to try and close this one out stronger. As you can see, though, a lot of drivers have lost points overall today. Currently, it is going to be Pack out in the lead now with 59 points. Pack continuing to be that consistent driver. And as you guys can see on reversing here, this is going to be the section that puts everybody to the test. And really, these last 2 tracks of the day are a huge curveball this week for all of these drivers. I mean, it's going to be a tough one, to say the least, to maintain the consistency that you see here from a lot of these drivers in this final race. And right now, as we go back into it, it is going to be Scrapie fighting for that top 8. Here we go, the final race of the day here, guys. It's going to be a tough one, but Scrapie looking to do the best he can here to close out the day. Here we have it, rounding the first few corners. Scrapie comfortably in the front of the pack here. Going into the first few turns, it's going to be Scrapie out in an early top 3 position. Scrapie fighting for the early lead here as well, back and forth alongside Gwen and Pack. Scrapie, though, still trying to make that impact known here in the first lap, getting ready to prep for the reverse section here, though. That's going to be the biggest challenge for many of these drivers, is seeing what they can do in the tougher sections of the map here coming up. And here we go into the reverse section. This is where drivers are really going to be put to the test, but as we saw in the warm-up, Scrapie looked really comfortable in this section, and as you can see coming out of it, he's able to move back into the top 3, so Scrapie looking very solid in that first go of the reverse section. Very nicely done indeed from Scrapie coming out of it, but he's going to have to do that 5 more times here on this map to have the impact he's looking for. And each and every lap is going to matter, because one bad move in that reverse section can cost you a ton of time here that Scrapie is in no position to give up. Currently fighting in the top 5, though. Scrapie back and forth with Spam now, who's in that 5th position just behind him. Going into the next reverse section, though, Scrapie looking to try and keep things clean lap after lap here if he can do so. But it's going to be a tough one to maintain. A lot of pressure in this final race on Scrapie to have a good end to his day. And here we go back into it. The reverse section, Scrapie looking to keep it strong once again. As they go into it, it does look fairly smooth for him so far. And there you have it. Coming out of it, Scrapie maintains the positioning. Another clean run through. Currently still in 5th. Going into lap number 3, Scrapie looking for even more. The ideal position for Scrapie would be a top 3 when this one's all said and done, because he really needs those points overall, because right now he's not in the best spot overall for points, but if he could win the final race of the day or even get a top 3 out of this one, he's going to at least be feeling a little bit better about how this one closes out. As we can see early on, it's going to be Gwen out in front, Pack in second, Papu with 1 point overall in that 5th position. Scrapie, though, you can see it there, a little bit shaky out of it. Hopefully that doesn't hurt him going into this section. And as you can see, Scrapie still maintaining so far, but a little bit of loss potentially here if he doesn't clean it up at the end. But there you have it, another clean section coming out of it. A little bit behind the top 4, but definitely within striking distance of a top 3 finish. Going into lap number 4 here, Scrapie still holding on to his spot in the middle of the top 8 here. Looking for that chance, that one good lap he needs to move into the top 3 here. And he may just be able to do it. Just over the halfway point here on our final map of the day as well. Scrapie getting closer and closer to a potential top 3 spot here. Gets the pass onto Papu here. It's going to be 4th now for Scrapie as we move forward on lap 4 out of 6. Going into the reverse section here, this is the chance for Scrapie to move into the top 3 if he can keep this one nice and clean. Going forward, it's still going to be maintaining that 4th position for Scrapie. Coming out of the ice, it's going to be Pack looking a little bit shaky. Scrapie starting to catch up for his chance at a top 3 spot here in lap number 5. 2 laps to go, and Scrapie still starting to look stronger and stronger each and every lap here. Scrapie in that 4th place position overall, looking for even more out of this here in the final 2 laps. Still has to keep it clean in that reverse section every time around, but right now he has his eyes set on that top 3 finish here if he can find a way to it. Scrapie getting closer and closer to Spam here in that 3rd place position, but right now it is going to be Papu as well, starting to get some headway on the potential pass here over Scrapie as they go into the reverse section. It's going to be all about maintaining that consistency here as they go into it. As you can see, Scrapie on the drop down there, gets the pass back onto Papu. Going into the turn, though, it's Papu who gets the pass right back onto him. Scrapie falling into about 5th position here. As we can see, though, it looks like we did have a driver spin out as well. Scrapie, this is his chance to move into the top 3 here. Right now, the battle is on. Gwen, the only driver comfortably out in front here, as Scrapie takes back 4th. Final lap of the race here, and all Scrapie needs is 1 pass to find himself a top 3 finish here. Scrapie looking to do what he can in this final lap of the day. He had quite the rough start, but this would be an amazing finish if he can find himself a top 3 out of this one. Going into the reverse section, he's got the speed to work with to potentially get the pass here on to Kappa. It's all about the execution here on this final section of track. Unfortunately for Scrapie, though, he does lose a little bit of ground here around the final turn. I don't think he's going to be able to close this one out exactly where he had hoped, but still, he manages to at least hold on to some points for the day. It's going to be a 7th place finish to close out the day for Scrapie. He'll find a handful of points out of this one. A few passes in that final lap from Affy and Papu, but at the end of the day, still going to at least maintain some points out of this one with a 7th place finish to close out the day. So Could have been better, could have been worse, I would say, for Scrapie overall. He's not going to finish too far behind. Pack and Massa lose all of their points, though, along with Mutta. A lot of points being lost here in the final lap, so overall, Scrapie only picks up 11 for the day, but still at least has some decent points to hold on to with a 7th place finish overall on the day. Scrapie, he still needs that one big day, but finishing in the top 8 at least gets him a bit of a safety net compared to nothing. So right now, overall, it is going to be Scrapie who does move down into 11th overall, but you can see that striking distance to get into 8th place, not out of reach just yet for Scrapie. He just needs that one big day to go his way. Carl Jr., though, what a performance overall so far. 264 points. Pack, still, even with a bad performance to close out the day, finishes and has 178 overall. So both of those drivers, I would say, are the only ones that feel very safe at this point. Aside from Carl and Pack, though, all of these other spots are going to be up for grabs going into the final 2 steps here of the regular season. It was a good performance from Scrapie here, but he needs to have some consistency overall going into these final 2 weeks. Otherwise, it's going to be a tough spot for him to grab. He's still 23 points behind Tween here. So Scrapie, he needs a big week in these final 2 weeks of the season coming up. But guys, that is going to be it for us today here in step number 4. Appreciate all of you tuning in today and showing your support here for Scrapie. A big shout out to our partners as well, Logitech G, XP Sports, and Surfshark. Be sure to check them all out in the panels down below. And thanks once again for tuning in, and have a great rest of your weekend, guys. We'll see you next weekend on Sunday for step number 5 to see what Scrapie can do to try and fight his way back to the top, guys. But that's it for today. Appreciate you guys. Take care.